you're crazy already. So if you're a crazy bitch and you see the entity, you're not gonna kill yourself. You're just gonna become even more crazy. You're gonna see that shit and be like, oh my gosh, like this shit is raw as hell. Cause you're already crazy, so what the fuck is the entity gonna do to you? Do I really want to do this video today? I mean, I look cute and most of the time I look really ugly. So I think I should record the video today because I'm probably not gonna look cute for another like 5, 16, 18 more weeks, you know? Cuteness is like once in a while for me, you know what I'm saying? All these other times I'll be looking popped. So I think I should do the video today, but I'm still gonna do it anyway because who is going to beat my ass? Nobody. All right, so I'm gonna do the review now and stop being really weird. Okay, so basically, how does this movie even start? Oh, it's 2 kids, right? A boy and a girl, and their name is Boy and Girl. Anyway, and it's Sandra Bullock, love her, bad bitch. So she's like, the journey we are going on will be dangerous, and we will be hungry and tired and scared, but under no circumstances should you remove your blindfold. If you remove your blindfold, I will hurt you. And then the camera shifts to these 2 little kids, and like the girl looks really terrified. Girl, she's like, and boy's just like, yeah, whatever, bitch. Anyway, so I think they start to go outside to a boat or whatever, and then it zooms back to the past of when all this shit happened. So she's pregnant as hell, Sandra Bullock, and she's painting or whatever. She's an artist. Her paintings are pretty good. And her sister, okay, after talking about something, I guess the late Sandra Bullock isn't really like, what's her name in the movie? Myra, Melanie, what's that girl's name? It's taking me 18 years to find this. Mallory. Her name is Mallory. So they go to the hospital and the doctor is an Indian lady. I forgot her name, Miss something. But anyway, so she's doing her ultrasound and then she's like, my condition, that's what Bird Box, the Mallory girl, was saying. And then she's like, condition is called pregnancy, whatever. So anyway, oh shit, I forgot this part. So when they was walking into the hospital, there's this blonde girl and the camera focuses on her, you know? So I already know some shit is gonna happen with this blonde girl. So anyway, Mallory's in the bathroom throwing up or whatever. I don't know where her sister, oh, her sister's in the car, I guess warming it up or whatever. Anyway, so Mallory's walking, she's walking at the hospital after getting her ultrasound. And then the same blonde girl from the beginning like starts banging her head on glass and like is killing herself. And people are like, okay, first of all, the people around her were dumb as hell. They weren't even trying to stop her right away. She done banged her head like 10 times, was bleeding, cracked the window and everything, and people was just like, okay, maybe now we help her. Like, are you dumb? You should have, as soon as she went doom the first time, you should have been like, girl, are you okay? Like, what are you doing? So anyway, Mallory sees that, Sandra Bullock. Anyway, so she's like, bruh, it clicks in her head like, oh, I'm literally the worst storyteller in the history of storytellers. I forgot to tell y'all, when they were at home painting, she saw on the news that people in Russia and China and all these other places was, I don't know, people were just committing suicide like crazy. So now back to the part where Mallory sees the girl. So that's when she clicks in her head. She's like, oh shit, it's in America now. Fuck, I gotta go. So she starts running. She goes to the car and she tells Sarah Paulson, who I forgot what her name is in the movie because she dies in like 3 seconds. She's like, oh my god, like we gotta go. Like this shit is in America now. And her sister, are you serious? Calm down. Fast and Furious in this bitch. So they're, well, at first not really, because she was trying to like stop at a stop sign, stop at red lights. When bitch, motherfuckers is killing themselves. Why are you trying to drive safely? Like, are you sick? Anyway, so, well, she's about to be. So she's driving. And then Sandra Bullock, aka Mallory, is like, oh my gosh, no. Go past the red light, girl, we don't got no time. Somebody with sense, instead of the other girl who's driving slow and it's a crisis, right? So anyway, she goes, what the fuck is that? And her eyes start to change. And Mallory's like, girl, like, are you good? Like, what's up? Because, you know, we in this car together and you're starting to drive crazy. So I guess she saw the entity or whatever. And she's like, ah! This girl done, she went over a car. The car flips. They flip over. Luckily, they didn't die. But not lucky too soon. Anyway, so, yeah. So Mallory climbs out of the car or whatever, and her sister climbs out the car too, but Mallory's still like on her like all fours. She's not all the way out the car, but her sister is. So her sister looks at her, and she damn near is like, a part of her is still there, because she looks at her sister and she's like, and then she steps in front of a car and kills herself. And Mallory saw all that shit. So Mallory's like, what the fuck? So then she gets up and she's running. And then people are just running everywhere because they're scared as hell. So then someone just pushes Mallory out the way like, bitch, move, move, bitch, get out the way. So she falls on her stomach. And I remember I was like, ugh, when I was watching that. So then, this lady, tries to pick her up. Because they're running towards this house. And she's like, and then her husband's like, come on, get in. She's like, she's pregnant, I gotta go. So she's walking towards Mallory. And then she goes, Mom? I guess she saw the entity. The entity took the shape of her mother. So then she starts walking. Then she walks into a burning car that ends up exploding. So Mallory's on the floor like, oh, and then this fine ass black man, I forgot his name. What was the name of the movie? Tom. And he was in the movie Moonlight. Because I don't feel like y'all attacking me because you guys think I don't know him. Anyway, so he goes over to, he's like, oh my gosh, come on, and he helps her in, da da da. So then the guy who just lost his wife is mad, and he has this big ass rifle, and he's looking at Mallory like, she went to help you. So everybody's mad. So there's probably like 7 or 10, I don't know how many people in that bitch in the house, but they locked the doors. So then they realize, okay, we gotta close the windows because whatever is making people want to kill themselves, they're seeing that outside. Shift back to the house. So the guy's like, oh, the owner of the house that they're in, his dumbass is literally like, oh, so even though I know that if you see the entities and you commit suicide, maybe I should try seeing them on a monitor. You know what I'm saying? I don't even know why he wants to see it. He has some reason, cause they can navigate by, I don't know what the hell he was trying to do, but they locked himself and he good enough. He saw the entity and killed himself. He decided, okay, we need to go somewhere. So then they're like, oh shit, we have a car and there's GPS in it. And so we can use the GPS to direct us to the store because Charlie anyway, Charlie worked at the supermarket and Charlie didn't even want to go. He was like, I'll give you guys the keys and you guys can go to the supermarket because I don't want to go. But they were like, Charlie, you have to go. So Charlie ended up going. So they're in the car and they're just driving over dead bodies and Tom's like, oh, this is just a speed bump. Everybody in the car like, that's not a speed bump. Anyway, they go to the supermarket, they close all the blinds, and it's hella food, hella drinks, hella technology. So they're like, oh my god, da, 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 da. So then the Douglas guy, the bald-headed guy, so he's a whole alcoholic. So he's drinking like, what? And then Douglas is like, we could just stay here. And then Mallory's like, what about the people in the house? And he was like this, well, why would we go back? And she's like, because we're not assholes. So then the camera shifts while Douglas is talking. Let me find her name. Her name is Lucy. Anyway, Lucy's looking there like, I'm the lowest of keys, but nobody watching the movie peeped it, but I peeped it. Like, she wanted to agree with Douglas, but she ain't want to say nothing. While they're in the supermarket, someone started banging on the door, let me in. And then Charlie's like, hey, I know him, like, let him in. And they're like, okay, so they start to let him in, and then he starts doing some weird shit, and Mallory had her birds, and the birds start flapping, and they're like, uh-oh, I think something's wrong. So then they're trying to close it, and he's like, trying to fight with them, like, la, 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 la. So then Charlie's dumbass, trying to be the hero, I love you, Charlie, you didn't deserve to die like that. You didn't even want to go to the supermarket, but they forced you. So he's like, puts his goggles on and just, or I think he took off his goggles and just tackled the guy. So he ends up killing himself because he saved everybody else. So now so they go back to the house, whatever. So there's so much food, everybody's happy. And guess what? Lucy and Machine Gun Kelly, I forgot his name, they decided to not only steal the supplies but steal the car. So they're like, where'd they go? And they left. I already know they dead. So let me just do this explain now. Lucy and Machine Gun Kelly, they're dead because their dumbasses went back to the supermarket. And but yeah, for all the people who want to know what happened to them, they're dead. Because what happened is, so later on in the story, you'll realize that certain people see the entity, and that's because they're crazy already. So if you're a crazy bitch and you see the entity, you're not gonna kill yourself. You're just gonna become even more crazy. You're gonna see that shit and be like, oh my gosh, like this shit is raw as hell. Cause you're already crazy, so what the fuck is the entity gonna do to you? Why do I only have to see it? Everybody has to see this. So that's what the crazy people do when they see the entity or whatever. So as the movie goes on, you start to see that there's hella crazy people, and after a while, they just start driving around trying to like going from houses to houses and trying to see if there's anyone alive and if they seen the entity or not. And if you haven't seen the entity, they're gonna make sure you see that entity. So anyway, that's how I know Lucy and Machine Gun Kelly are dead, because this corner store had all the supplies and stuff. So of course the crazy people are gonna have to go there and look for stuff to eat and survive, you know. So when they busted up in that superstore or supermarket and seen Machine Gun Kelly and Lucy, they're like, oh, these people haven't seen the entity, so they're gonna force them to see the entity. Yeah, they did. There's this stupid, hopeless, and foolish girl named Olympia that becomes the destruction of everybody in that house. In 2019, may you never open a door for Olympia in your life, in Jesus' mighty name. Amen. So, you know, she's pregnant. She's like, let me. Tom, having the good heart that he has, he lets her in, which was a great mistake. So anyway, Olympia in, and she's like really wimpy and crying, and I hate people like that. Olympia opens the door for this guy, and he's like, oh yeah. And Douglas was like, don't open the door for him, he needs to go, because the story he was saying was not making sense. He was saying like, oh yeah, I survived, da 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 da, and saying all this other stuff. But like Douglas was like, nah, I don't think we should let him in type shit. Like there's something wrong. He's like, nah, I don't think we should let him in. Like da 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 da. Everybody's like, shut the fuck up, Douglas. I feel like I'm a Douglas in life. Like I be saying stuff, but my delivery is terrible. So anyway, Douglas like, nah, nah, nah. So they hit him in the back of the head and leave him in the garage and take his gun, because Douglas was like, I'm gonna shoot everybody who thinks he shouldn't come or stay in here. Olympia and Mallory go into labor. So I was like, okay, that's where boy and girl came from, because Mallory was pregnant with one child, so where the other kid come from. So anyway, they're giving birth, da da da. So the doctor starts just looking crazy, like just walking around like, and he brings out a thing, and it's like dark shadings of like monsters, and that's when I'm like, oh fuck, like this nigga is crazy as hell. So then all of a sudden he takes the birds, he puts them in the either the freezer, he starts ripping off everything. So Douglas is like, hey dude, what are you doing? And he opens the garage, and Douglas is like, ah, or whatever. So Tom's upstairs trying to help them and everything, and this guy's ripping down everything. So then Tom, okay, this is where Tom pissed me off. Douglas is like, he's crazy, like something, and Tom literally looks at him and goes, and then just keeps walking. I'm like, Tom, are you dumb? At least hear Douglas out. Anyway, so Douglas and, no, not Douglas, what's that nigga's name? I don't even know. The doctor and Tom start fighting or whatever. So then he knocks Tom out. So then he go upstairs and he's like, oh my god, they're so beautiful, and starts ripping off the things from the windows so they could see outside. And they're like, what are you doing? No, stop. Ah. So then what happens? So then Olympia looks and goes, and it got to her, so she's standing up, and then Mallory's like, give me the baby. And this is like the second instant you see someone fight the entity or the demons in their head. The first time was Mallory's sister, when she looked at her before she stepped in the car. That was her sister like being sad, you know. So Olympia's like fighting, so she fights it enough to where she can give her baby to Mallory, and then she just busts through the whole window and killed herself. Doctor's like, ah, yes, Mallory, give me the baby. And Mallory's like, no, leave us alone. Ah. So then the old lady, okay, the old lady pissed me off too. She picked up a knife. Why can't you just stab him right away? She was just, and even when he held her and was forcing her eyes open, she wasn't even trying to stab him before she saw the entity. So anyway, she saw the entity, stabbed herself in the neck, and then he dropped her. So then he goes downstairs and Tom is waking up, and oh no, Douglas bust in like an OG with the gun and was like, Douglas tweet too. Instead of to just let that thing spread like there's no tomorrow, he was just like, he could have easily killed him. He ends up stabbing Douglas to death. So Tom is just waking up after being knocked out for like 50 years. And they start arguing over the gun. Not arguing, fighting over the gun. But Tom shoots his ass, period. And goes upstairs, sees Mallory with the baby. And the babies, and helps them or whatever. So now, remember I told you how there's crazy people driving around or whatever? So yeah. So the crazy people notice that Mallory and they see Mallory and Tom or whatever. So Tom with his stupid ass is like, oh, I'll be Captain Save-A-Hole. I feel like Tom should have been like the Michael Jordan meme. Them kids. And saved himself. But you know, he has a good heart and he loves Mallory even though she's such an asshole. So anyway, the kids or whatever are walking and then Tom starts shooting. He even takes off his blindfold because he just really don't want them to get killed. So then he sees the entity, and this is the third and last time you see someone fighting the entity. So he fights and shoots one of the people who was about to shoot Mallory and the kids and then kills himself. So sad. Anyway, that's when it shoots to present tense. So Mallory and the kids on the boat and shit. And then Mallory's telling them like, one of you guys is gonna have to look and tell me which way to go. And then whatchamacallit, so the girl's like, I'll do it, and no, the boy's like, I'll do it, and Mallory's like, hell no, you're not doing it. And that's when you know, like, okay, so the boy is her kid. Her plan this whole time was to have girl look. So anyway, girl's like, okay, I'll do it. So when the time comes to look, she's like, nobody's gonna do it, or whatever. So then they end up like close to the place they're trying to be or whatever. So then they're walking, and then she trips over something. And then she falls in some ditch. So her dumbass kids decide to go wander around the forest, going to God knows where. Mallory, not hearing her. So Mallory wakes up and she finds boy and she's looking for girl. So the entity's telling her they're in the form of Mallory because they know girl is terrified of Mallory. So they're like, open your blindfold now. And she's like, okay, because you know she's scared, she's gonna do it. So then Mallory's like, girl, like I love you, like I'm sorry for being so harsh to you, like the real Mallory. So then girl hears the real Mallory, so then she comes to Mallory, so they're good. And then they make it to the place they're trying to be. Tell me why it's the school for the blind, because you know you gotta see the entities to, you know, kill yourself. So while everybody was dying, blind people was just posted up like, ew, wop, like, what's up? And she sees the doctor. So the doctor's like, are these your kids? And they're like, yeah. They're like, what's your name? And girl's like, girl. And then boy's like, boy. And then the doctor's like, and then Mallory, shame, Kachi's hot. Because, you know, Mallory didn't have any shame before. So Mallory's like, oh, these are my kids. Her name's Olympia. I don't know why she named her after that dumb bitch. And this is Tom. And you know, I started crying because I was like, oh my gosh, this is so sad. And they're like, okay. And that's the end of the story. So yeah, I explained everything, you see. And yeah, so what happened, a lot of people are like, so what happens at the end? Like, I guess they stay in the school of the blind and just be posted up. So this is my Bird Box review / explaining.